Welcome to Small Medium at Large, the podcast where we dive deep into life's biggest questions with a little help from Spirit. Through heartfelt conversations, Spirit-led guidance, and powerful guest interviews, my hope is to inspire you to fill your cup, shine your light, and create a little more heaven on earth. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's begin. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are now moving into part 2 of this Self-Care for Ascension series and its connection to self. And this episode is all about sacred selfishness and why filling your cup is a non-negotiable. So, what I want to do to start is reframe this idea of selfish, okay? Because what Spirit has taught me is that we can't give what we don't have, right? So this is all about moving from depletion to devotion to yourself. And the idea of sacred selfishness, okay, it's not about ego. It's about energetic responsibility, okay? And really being mindful of and honoring our energetic hygiene on a daily basis. The old paradigm, labeled self-care as selfish, especially for women, mothers, and caregivers. But we've been taught that giving to others comes first. But as I said, you can't give what you don't have. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so, true self-care is soul care, okay? And devotion to self is devotion to spirit within. And when you prioritize your alignment, everyone around you benefits. I promise you that. When I was feeling burnt out and depleted because I wasn't honoring my boundaries and what I needed to stay grounded and balanced and energized, I started taking it out, not purposely, but, with my kids. I noticed I was short and I lost my patience a lot faster. And so that was when I went away for several days to come home to me. And when I returned, I was completely peaceful, centered, balanced, but I still had the same responsibilities and, daily priorities, just being a mother, a wife, a business owner. I still had to show up, but I did it from a place of centeredness and peacefulness. And it was just a different energy that I was able to operate from because my cup was full. And so, for me, what I realized was I can't go for months and months without doing it. I need to incorporate into every single day, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day. Sometimes that's all I have time for, right? I know many of you listening, you have a lot of roles and responsibilities and, carving out hours a day, each day is not realistic. And quite honestly, if we put that expectation and pressure on ourselves, and we don't meet it, that's when we start to, get down on ourselves and critical of ourselves. And that is not what we want. We want to set ourselves up for success, not failure. So even if it's, a couple times a week, you'll figure out the balance for you, what you need. But let's now move into connection to your true self. It is the portal to heaven on earth. So I'm pulling a lot of these ideas from my book, What's Your Heaven? Okay. And the idea of what's your heaven is you are in earth school and you have lessons or life assignments you're here to work through. Okay. It's karma that we're here to heal and balance and transform or alchemize. And with that, you can do it from pain, suffering, and struggle, right? The old way, which is kind of the 3D old earth that we've been talking about, or you can do it from a more aligned way, okay? This is where you attune to the frequencies of the 5D heavenly realm. And when you are attuned to these higher frequencies of harmony and faith and trust and love and peace and grace and all these heavenly feelings, you learn your lessons with grace, ease, and joy. And the choice is ours. So I think it's an obvious no-brainer which way we want to do this, right? So what Spirit has taught me over the years is that the path to heaven on earth begins within, okay? Our alignment with ourself equals our alignment with Source, okay? So, it's really important that we choose ourselves first, even when that's uncomfortable, because when we make ourselves a priority, right, that we are connected to our highest self and centered and grounded and connected to something bigger, this leads to more peace, abundance, clarity, okay, all the things that we crave, we desire to be in a flow state. An example from my own life was when I was so burnt out, and I was guided to go on my own 7-day retreat where I unplugged from everyone and everything. Okay. And that was an extreme example. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be, that extreme. But for me, I had just let it snowball for so long that I really needed that time to disconnect from this earth world, from technology, from everyone and everything, to really come home to me and remember that this is not a luxury. This is a necessity, especially for anyone who's like me and you're wired more sensitive. You're an empath. I'm an Enneagram 9. And so all of these things, in my human design, I'm a projector, okay? My energy is wired very differently. And so I can't go long and hard before I burn out. So you'll have to decide what your energy needs. We're all different. It's not a one size fits all. But at the end of the day, we all need to begin within, to come home to ourselves, and to make self-care that priority. Self-love is not indulgent, okay? It's a vibrational gateway. And when you're in alignment, you naturally attune to higher frequencies: love, joy, peace, abundance, harmony, all of the heavenly frequencies that I extensively talk about in What's Your Heaven. So what I have experienced and what I've witnessed my clients experiencing, what happens when we don't prioritize ourselves is that we start to notice signs of, depletion and spiritual disconnection. And this is what I meant when I said, burnout, resentment, bitterness, overwhelm, irritability, and disempowerment. Okay. We energetically leak when we overgive and overdo, overfunction, or abandon ourselves to be liked, needed, or accepted. And so, it's very common that many empaths and you caregiver archetypes, you helpers that are listening, it's very common and normal, okay, to fall into this pattern because it's how we're wired, right? But there is a way to show up and to be of service to others, again, from a place of being whole and your cup being full so that you have more to give. So self-neglect creates distortion in our energy field. And over time, everything starts energetically. So over time, that energetic, disharmony and dis-ease can lead to disease, can lead to physical, mental, or emotional imbalance and health issues, okay? And Spirit has said so many times, when people come to me for readings and they are experiencing physical, mental, health issues, that it has been an accumulation over, years and years in the making of neglecting their own need for balance and And so we can be proactive, and knowledge is power, right? We can be preventative if we have the awareness that the minute energetically that we start sensing that we are overgiving, that we are out of balance, if we honor that and we recognize the signs and do something proactively to counterbalance that, then we can save ourselves from having to experience it. And so it's a practice. It's really about being present and aware, and then honest with yourself when, giving yourself permission to have a timeout, to take a break, to set the boundaries, to say no. That idea, no is a complete sentence without guilt. But really listening to and honoring your body and what you need. And so this idea that the self-neglect creates distortion in our energy field, it becomes hard to receive guidance, okay, or manifest clearly, or even hear your intuition when you are fried. It's almost impossible. Over the years, I have had to find the right balance of how many clients I can work with a day, how many groups I can do a week to manage my energy so that I don't fry my circuits, or so that I don't overgive to the point I become resentful or bitter. Okay, so, that has been trial and error over the years. And, for me, I can sustain a lot more only because it's like working out. The more you work out, the stronger you get, your muscles build. Well, I've built this intuitive and energetic muscle and I've also done a tremendous amount of work. I every single day, every single week, I am constantly working on expanding my vessel, improving wherever I can to stay a healthy, pure, clear channel so that I can offer my best work, because I feel like that's part of the responsibility of having this gift. So again, it's, so many of you listening, I know you receive your own intuitive wisdom, guidance, okay? As I preach, we all have this for ourselves, but, we have to be in a centered, balanced, peaceful state in order to easily and clearly download intuition and communication with spirit. In my experience of working with a lot of clients, primarily women clients, what I have found is that women who are naturally wired to be more empathic, okay, more highly sensitive, and women who tend to be givers, natural born givers, okay? These types of women tend to give through emotional attunement and intuitive ongoing nurturing, whereas a lot of men tend to do acts of service, okay? That's how they show up and give. So more like one-offs, whereas, and I only speak to this from personal experience, and that my whole life, this has been my pattern, where I'm so in tune with other people's emotions and what they're going through. And that's just part of my wiring, okay? But with that, it's just ongoing. And so because of that, it can really result in catching up with us if we don't know how to manage that, okay, and manage our energy, because that ultimately is why it leads to burnout and exhaustion and depletion, because we're constantly giving from an empty cup, okay? And when we're in relationships with others, whether it's romantic or just platonic, when we give and give and give, okay, over giving, and sometimes people get so used to it, we've almost trained them to be takers, even if they're not. I mean, there are psychic vampires out there who absolutely take, and take advantage. But then there's a lot of people who aren't that, but we've trained them to be that, okay? And then they just come to expect it. And then we start to feel unseen, okay? And that then turns into the resentment and the anger and frustration. And then for myself, I know what I've done in that pattern is then I start to withdraw and I start to withhold love. Okay, that's my shadow. And I've worked with so many clients who have done this as well. But we're not consciously trying to punish or, withhold love, but that is our response or reaction, I should say. Because, on some level we think, well, we're punishing that person who's not expressing their appreciation for all of the giving we've done. But the truth is we're mostly punishing ourselves, because what it does, it disconnects us from our higher self. And when we're in this frequency, it disconnects us from spirit, okay? And the most important relationship, as I spoke to in earlier episodes, that we can ever have is our connection to source, which is that connection to divine spirit, right? Looking at this as God is our source first, and God is our source of everything, and then connection to self. And so it's really important that we catch ourselves when this starts to happen, and that we break agreements with that old programming and conditioning and the pattern, right? And then for us to really put the self-care first, to fill up our cup first, so that we can feel generous. We're then giving from a place of generosity, right? From a frequency of the being generous and kind and caring without any of the shadow mixed in with it.
Looking for clarity, connection, or comfort? My collection of guided meditations are a powerful way to reconnect with your spirit and receive divine guidance. Explore the full library at RebeccaRosen.com and get a free meditation when you join the email list.
And so now I just want to share, sacred self-care tools for reconnection. Okay, some of the tools in my toolbox. And so let's just start with energetic hygiene. Okay, daily cleansing practices. For me, I run my energy. In What's Your Heaven, I talk about a whole program of change it, run it, tap it. And the run it piece of that equation is all about using color and the vibration, the frequencies of color, to visualize running those color frequencies through your mind, body, and aura. Okay. And so if that speaks to you, you can check out What's Your Heaven. You can also, I have a digital content course dedicated to this, and it explains the different colors that you can use. So that's one example. You could, when you take a shower, you could just close your eyes and imagine the water being white light or golden light. It's a waterfall pouring down from the crown of your head all the way through your body, cleansing, clearing, balancing all of your chakras, and then expanding out into all levels and layers of your energy field, your aura. That's another thing you could do. Cord cutting. This is another really important thing, especially if you notice physical aches or pains in your body. Like, I know sometimes I get cords hooked into my solar plexus area, which can be the front side, which is the stomach, or the back side, which would be my middle to lower back. When I start noticing aches and pains, I have to check in and see, is this an energetic cord from whether it's a spirit being or a human that has hooked into me, in a fear-based way? Or my shoulders. That's another big one. Neck and shoulders. A lot of times when we're out of balance and we haven't done our self-care, we're more vulnerable. And so the psychic attack coming from the fear-based thoughts and projections from, again, whether it's incarnated beings, humans, or spirit beings, okay? We can easily get corded. And so the idea here is to call your energy back and to cut the cords. And something I like to do, I call in Archangel Michael, and I ask him, whether it's known or unknown, places in my body, in my aura, where I am corded, to clear this, and I demand my energy come home to me. And then if someone or something comes to mind, usually, if I really feel into where I sense there could be an energy attachment, a cord, I send that person's or that situation's energy back. Okay, so it's one thing you call your energy home, call it back from the person or situation, and then you also send their energy back. Okay, and that way you are completely separating your energy from this outside source. And then finally, I would say the bubble of protection. I talk about bubble wrapping your energy field. So this is really simple, but you just intend or visualize, or both, a golden white light bubble surrounding you, extending several feet out past your aura, with the intention any energy that's not in the frequency of love and light and truth be transmuted by your light, so that you're sending it back with this pure positive energy, but you're also not absorbing. You're protecting instead. Okay, saying no. Here is another tool. Saying no without guilt. Okay, this is all about healthy boundaries. And trust me, this is one of my life lessons, working through that people pleaser and that kind of over giver part of me. This is where we give ourselves permission to say no to what drains us. Okay, even good things. Okay, it doesn't mean that the things you're saying no to are always harmful or negative. Sometimes they're positive, but just not for you. So if it's not aligned for you, it's not your truth in that moment, it's okay to say no. In fact, it's the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for whoever else is a part of that conversation. When you're tuning into something and trying to decide if it's a yes or a no, if this person or the situation will serve you or not, you really want to listen to your body, okay? If you don't have a full body yes, okay, you just immediately, you feel it, you sense it, sometimes you get the chills. If it's not a full body yes, then what Spirit has taught me, then perhaps it's a sacred no. That is information for you. For what I've learned is that if it's not a full body yes, it doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it means just pause and wait. Okay, you don't have enough information yet, or the timing is not right. And so for that time, I've learned to say, I don't know, and I will get back to you when I do know. Because for me, then my team in Spirit will show me when. Okay, it becomes very organic and intuitive. And until then, I just, in a sense, put it in the hands of the divine and ask Spirit, okay, I'm going to give this to you and trust you will show me with clarity, what I need to do with this. Is this a yes or a no? And again, if I don't know, just not knowing right there is a pause, a wait, or a no for that moment. And so I would leave you with this practice. Pause, feel, respond. Okay? Rather than people pleasing and jumping to an answer you think someone else wants to hear. All right? This is really going to take practice if you're used to people pleasing. But you want to pause and you want to breathe. You really want to tune into how do you feel? What is your body feeling or telling you? And then from that place of presence and awareness, you then respond versus reacting. There is a big difference. Okay, another self-care tool is solo soul time. This is regular alone time to tune inward. Now, for introverts, this is like golden, okay? For extroverts, sometimes you don't need as much alone time or quiet time, but the bottom line is we all can benefit, however you're wired, from solo soul time, an opportunity to like plug your ears to the outside world and really direct your focus inward. Sometimes nature walks really help with this practice. I know for me, moving meditation sometimes is better than sitting meditation, especially when I'm anxious or stressed, or I've had too much caffeine. But you decide. But nature naturally vibrates at the frequency of love. So you're really attuning your frequency to that heavenly energy of love. And then you're moving in a way that's very intentional to ground and to expand, and then really come home to you and get quiet, get still. Another way you could do that is journaling, really processing out our thoughts and feelings, whether you do it with a pen and paper or on your computer. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. Some people say it's more effective to use your actual pen in the hand, but I have done both successfully. And meditation. Okay, so moving meditation I spoke to. Now, just sometimes some of you may have a practice. Some people do transcendental meditation, right, where you have a mantra, or guided meditations. All sorts of ways to meditate. There's no right or wrong way. You just have to see what's most effective for you. And for some people, it's just creative hobbies. Okay, it could be painting, it could be dancing, it could be playing an instrument, but all ways to come home to you, find that stillness, and tune out the noise of the outside world. This is all about recharging your soul battery. It's really funny. Today I was behind a license plate that said battery, so that is divinely perfect. But it really is about seeing our vessel, like think of it like the body is like a vehicle. Think of it like an electric car. And, you can only go so far before you run out of battery and you have to recharge. And so the same applies for this vessel or physical temple that we house our souls in. So when you treat yourself as sacred, life responds to that vibration, okay? I promise you, when you start honoring yourself and you choose to make your energy on every level matter, and then you find that balance, the world reflects that back to you. Life gets easier. Things flow. Again, this is where you get into that, what I call flow-tastic state, where synchronicities, signs, miracles are left and right every single day. That's what we're aiming for. And so some signs that you're returning to yourself. You feel less reactive and more grounded, okay? You're going to feel way more confident and clear on your boundaries. You trust your gut and your inner voice more, okay? Things come to you and you don't wrestle with a lot of doubt and second guessing. It's just you're more in your certainty. You stop betraying yourself for approval. You start really listening to you, to both your higher self and your inner child or the inner children. We'll talk about that more in another episode on the IFS model of we all have these protector parts or inner children that are there because they want to keep us safe. They want us to listen to and honor what we want, what we need to be a healthy, whole human. Okay? And so we stop betraying ourselves and putting others' wants, needs, and desires before our own. We reverse that. And you start magnetizing aligned opportunities, relationships, and guidance. Okay? So when you are in this aligned place, you will attract people who match that same frequency. And so Here's a reflection prompt I want to leave you with. Maybe journal this out or just ask yourself and meditate on this. Where have I been abandoning myself to stay safe, be liked, or accepted? What's one loving act I can offer myself today instead? So sit with that. Ask your guides to help you where maybe you have blind spots, to see where you have neglected yourself, what you need unapologetically to be in more harmony and balance and grace as you move through this Earth School experience. And so that is all for this episode, my friends. I invite you to reclaim your sacred time for yourself this week. Again, figure out at least one day for, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes. But you deserve that. Give yourself that gift. Come home to yourself. And I promise you, when you just be you and do you and take care of you, you will then be divinely guided on how you can pay that forward in service to others. Okay? And that is the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for everyone you love and care about around you. Until we connect again in the next episode, I am wishing you brightest blessings and all love.
Thank you for listening to Small Medium at Large. If this episode inspired you, please follow the show and leave a review. It truly helps us reach more people who need these messages. For more resources and upcoming events, visit RebeccaRosen.com and connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Medium Rebecca Rosen.